Welcome back to another deep dive. Last time, things got pretty intense, right? We left Vandris and the group staring down an incubus and a portal to the abyss.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Just brutal. And they barely escaped Helm's Hold with their lives. Not to mention Kindred tapping into some seriously dark power.
Yeah.
It's like they're being pushed to their absolute limits,
Hmm.
both physically and morally.
Absolutely.
So we've got session 6 in front of us. You ready to unpack it?
I am so ready. Let's do it.
Okay, so session 6 kicks off with the group kind of regrouping. After that harrowing escape from Helm's Hold, they're battered, bruised, shaken, but they don't have much time to rest. They're headed to Hollowstone Hills. It's to investigate this mystery of the missing livestock. And something tells me this is going to be more than just some, simple cattle rustling case.
Right, yeah. And even though they're still reeling from that encounter with the incubus, right, they don't hesitate to jump into this new challenge. It just shows how dedicated they are to protecting Neverwinter, even if it means pushing themselves beyond their limits.
Yeah. And Kindred, don't even get me started.
Yeah.
That whole another soul to the grave line from the last session still gives me chills. It seems like the darkness they're fighting is starting to leave its mark on him, Do you think he's changing? Or is it more like this darkness was always there, just waiting for the right moment to kind of surface?
That's a great question. It's something this session explores. In some really subtle ways, I think. We see Kindred using his physical scythe more, almost like he's becoming more hands-on with the violence, less detached. It's a subtle shift, but it makes you wonder if he's becoming more comfortable with the darker aspects of his power.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so on their way to Hollowstone Hills, they run into this, talkative tinkerer.
Oh, yeah?
And he just spills all these interesting tidbits about what's happening in the wider world. We hear about King Falador's conquest, the refugee crisis, a dragon sighting even. It's like a quick reminder that even as our heroes are dealing with these immediate threats, the world around them is still in turmoil. Creates a sense of urgency and scale to their mission.
Right. It's easy to get caught up in the immediate story. But those little snippets, they remind us that the stakes are much larger than just one town or one group of heroes.
Yeah.
The fate of Neverwinter, maybe even the entire region, is hanging in the balance.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then things get really weird. They encounter a talking fox named Vixa, who's been cursed by a witch and needs their help to break the spell.
Oh, yeah, Vixa. That's a fun one.
It's such a subtle shift in tones.
I know.
A blend of fairy tale whimsy and Vandris's signature cynicism.
Yeah. I love it.
It seems like the writers are playing with our expectations a little bit, keeping us guessing.
I know, right? Like, what's coming next?
Yeah, exactly.
It's so much fun.
Okay, so they agree to help Vixa, and Vandris, ever the cautious one, scouts ahead to the witch's hut. And he describes this creepy little cottage, adorned with bones and furs and all sorts of unsettling trinkets. Classic witchy vibes, but with a touch of something darker, something more sinister kind of lurking beneath the surface.
You can just feel it.
Right.
Something's not right there.
Totally. And then, just when you think it can't get any weirder, they try to open this magically sealed chest.
Yeah.
And a reanimated broom attack.
I love that part.
It's a hilarious moment. Like a touch of slapstick humor in the midst of this, creepy, suspenseful scene.
I know. And it reminds us, too, that even in the face of danger, there's always room for a little levity.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And it reveals a lot about the characters, too, how they react to the unexpected, how they work together under pressure.
Absolutely.
Okay, so they finally managed to open the chest, but not without consequences. They're all marked with his strange symbol that Vixa believes is some kind of tracking device. It adds this whole other layer of mystery and unease, hinting that they might have stumbled into something far more complex than they initially realized.
That symbol is such a good example of how the writers plant these seeds of intrigue throughout the story.
Totally.
We don't know what it means yet, but it's clearly important, and it's going to have repercussions down the line.
Oh, I bet.
It keeps the audience engaged, wanting to know more, wanting to unravel those mysteries alongside the characters.
I'm hooked.
Me too.
So they destroy the amulet. Vixa transforms back into her human form. And just when it seems like they can, breathe a sigh of relief, bam! Goblins and wolves ambush them. It's a reminder that in this world, danger lurks around every corner. Even a moment of triumph can quickly turn into a fight for survival.
It's also a great way to showcase the combat prowess of the group. You see Vandris's deadly accuracy with his bow, Kindred's surprising use of his physical scythe, Ulrich's brutal efficiency, and Kaskin's powerful magic, all working together to overcome the threat. It's such a well-choreographed scene.
Yeah, it really is.
It highlights the strengths of each character and how they complement each other in battle.
Absolutely. Yeah. They finally arrive in Hollowstone Hills, this seemingly peaceful village that feels almost untouched by the chaos that's brewing around it. They start gathering information about the missing livestock and this mysterious World Eaters cult, talking to the old-timers at the general store, getting a feel for the town.
Classic setup, right?
Totally.
The idyllic village harboring a dark secret.
Oh, yeah. It's like, you know something's wrong, but the townsfolk seem oblivious, going about their daily lives as if nothing is amiss. It creates this, unease, a feeling that something sinister is lurking beneath the surface of this, seemingly peaceful community.
Totally agree. And while the others are kind of getting acquainted with the town, Kindred heads to the graveyard. And using his connection to the divine, he communes with the spirit of Martin,
Oh, yeah.
the former owner of the farm, now occupied by the cult. It's a really clever way to get some backstory and exposition,
Absolutely.
without relying on clunky dialogue or info dumps. It also showcases Kindred's unique abilities and his willingness to use them in these unconventional ways. And it's worth noting, too, that this scene introduces the theme of betrayal, which becomes increasingly important as the story unfolds. Martin reveals that his daughter, Elena, is involved with the cult, and that his death may not have been natural.
Oh, wow.
It's a shocking revelation. It casts this shadow of suspicion over Elena
Yeah.
and raises the stakes for Vandris and the group.
Yeah, for sure. So meanwhile, Ulrich and Kaskin are at the local saloon, enjoying the hospitality.
Oh.
They even get roped into a drinking game with Vixa,
Oh, no.
which Kaskin, being a halfling with a low tolerance, loses spectacularly. It's a lighthearted interlude that provides some comic relief, and it lets us see the characters, relaxing and interacting in this, more casual setting.
I love those quieter moments. They're so crucial for character development.
Yeah.
We see Ulrich's boisterous nature, Kaskin's mischievous streak, Vixa's playful spirit. It reminds us that these aren't just heroes or warriors. They're individuals, with their own personalities and quirks.
I like it.
It helps the audience connect with them on a more personal level.
For sure. And while Ulrich and Kaskin are busy drinking, Vandris is, of course, working. He chats up the bartender and learns about Elena's close friend Sarah down the way. It's like he's always one step ahead, gathering information while everyone else is distracted.
It reinforces Vandris's role as the strategist, the one who thinks things through, and plans ahead. And it also highlights his tendency to work independently, even when he's part of a team. He's not afraid to take matters into his own hands, especially when he feels like the stakes are high.
Makes sense. So they track down Sarah, hoping to learn more about Elena and her connection to the cult. Unfortunately, Sarah hasn't seen her friend in months. Doesn't really provide much helpful information. That's a bit of a dead end, but it adds to that growing sense of mystery surrounding Elena and the World Eaters.
It's interesting how Vandris describes the interaction with Sarah.
Yeah.
He mentions Kaskin's drunken attempts to befriend her and his own, more calculated approach. It emphasizes the differences in their personalities and how they approach problem solving. And it hints at a growing tension within the group, a sense that they may not always see eye to eye on how to handle things.
Yeah. The tension definitely ramps up as they set up a stakeout at Jameson's farm, hoping to catch the livestock thieves, red-handed. Vandris hides in the trees, Kindred takes position in the barn, Kaskin hides in the farmhouse with Jim and Jameson. It's a risky plan, but they're determined to get to the bottom of this.
Oh, and of course we can't forget Ulrich's sheep disguise.
Oh my God!
It's such a hilarious visual, this hulking warrior trying to blend in with a flock of sheep.
We love it.
It's another one of those moments of levity that breaks the tension and reminds us not to take things too seriously. It also shows Ulrich's willingness to do whatever it takes to get the job done, even if it means looking ridiculous.
Yeah, that's Ulrich for you. Okay, so as they get into position, they hear music coming from the woods. And a crowd of hooded figures swarm the farm, stealing the sheep. Vandris tries to cast a fireball spell, but miscasts it in the chaos. It's a frustrating moment. It's a reminder that even the most skilled spellcasters can make mistakes, especially under pressure.
It also highlights the unpredictability of magic in this world.
Right.
It's not always reliable, and it can have unintended consequences.
Oh, yeah.
Which adds that layer of danger and suspense, reminds us that nothing is guaranteed.
Totally. So Ulrich bursts from his sheep disguise, tackles the thieves, takes one captive. Caskin and Kindred join the fight, but most of the thieves escape with their stolen sheep. It's a chaotic scene full of adrenaline and close calls, and it's clear that they're dealing with something more organized and dangerous than they initially anticipated.
It's a turning point in the session, I think. The moment where the stakes are raised significantly, they realize that this isn't just about missing livestock anymore. It's about something much bigger and more sinister. The fight against the World Eaters is no longer this distant threat. It's right here, right now, in Hollowstone Hills.
Exactly. So they take their 3 captives to the barn for interrogation, and this is where things take a dark turn. The captives are revealed to be cultists, completely devoted to their cause and unafraid of death. They're sacrificing the livestock to their gods, these world eaters, and they believe they're ushering in this, utopian future.
Their fanaticism is unsettling.
I know.
They're so convinced of their righteousness that they're willing to commit horrific acts
Yeah.
in the name of their beliefs.
Right.
It raises questions about the nature of belief and how easily people can be manipulated, especially when they're promised a better world.
100%. And then comes the bombshell. The leader of the cult is Vorm, and his wife, Elena, is none other than Martin's daughter. It's like every piece of the puzzle is clicking into place, but the picture it's forming is getting more and more disturbing.
It's a classic betrayal narrative.
Right.
The daughter siding with the enemy potentially responsible for her own father's demise. It adds this whole layer of emotional complexity to the conflict, makes us question the motivations of everyone involved.
Right. Vandris, horrified by Elena's betrayal of her father, vows to make her feel the pain he's endured. You can just sense this rage building within him, this personal connection to the conflict, fueling his determination to take down the cult.
It's a turning point for Vandris.
Yeah.
The fight is no longer just about protecting Neverwinter or stopping the World Eaters. It's become personal, a quest for vengeance against those who represent everything he's lost. It's a dangerous path, one that could lead him down a dark road, but it's also a testament to his fierce loyalty and his willingness to fight for those he cares about, even if it means sacrificing his own morals.
And that's where we'll leave it for part 1 of this deep dive. What a cliffhanger. Vandris and his companions are about to infiltrate a cult gathering, and they're facing a whole lot of danger and uncertainty. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve even deeper into the mysteries of Hollowstone Hills and the World Eaters.
Can't wait.
Me neither. See you next time. Welcome back to part 2 of our deep dive. When we left off, Vandris and the others were about to infiltrate this, super creepy cult gathering, using the stolen robes as disguises and carrying sheep as offerings. I mean, talk about going undercover.
Right. It's a risky move, but they're desperate for answers, and they're running out of time, especially with Kindred teetering on the edge of, well, something pretty dark.
Yeah, that whole another soul for the grave thing is still echoing in my head. It's like he's being pulled in 2 different directions. The healer, the compassionate one, and then this, darker, more ruthless side. It's scary.
And we see that duality reflected in the choices they're facing with Worm. Kill him and risk the worm going on a rampage, or try to contain it with him still alive and in control. It's a tough call. Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Exactly. It's a classic moral dilemma. And then there's the hypnotic dust. The worm releases this dust that shows people visions of a utopian world, which is how the cultists have been brainwashed. It makes you think about how easily people can be manipulated, especially when they're promised a better future, even if it's all based on illusions.
It's fascinating, though, isn't it, how Vandris and his companions are immune to it. They see right through the illusion. It suggests they've faced their own demons, their own temptations, and come out stronger on the other side.
So they're not buying into the hype, but they're still in a very dangerous situation. They've got this giant worm to deal with. And Vorm is still alive, clinging to the edge of the pit and basically holding the town hostage. So what happens next?
Well, Ulrich being Ulrich, right? He decides to take matters into his own hands. He kicks Vorm into the pit, hoping to kill him and sever that connection with the worm. Bold move. Impulsive, maybe, but very Ulrich.
Oh, man. I was on the edge of my seat when that happened. If Vorm died, there was no guarantee the worm would just disappear.
Exactly. It was a huge risk. But as luck would have it, Vorm survives, clinging to the edge of the pit, injured but alive. And that's when things get really interesting.
How so?
With Vorm injured and not fully in control, the worm becomes truly wild. No longer a tool of the cult, it's this primal force of nature, driven by pure instinct. It wreaks havoc on everything in its path.
So it backfires spectacularly. They thought they were controlling a god, but they unleashed something they couldn't comprehend.
Absolutely. It speaks to the hubris of humanity, you know? Our desire to control and manipulate forces that are ultimately beyond our grasp.
So with the worm on a rampage and everything going sideways, Kaskin tries to create a teleportation circle. It's their only hope of escaping this mess. But creating a stable portal takes time and concentration, two things they don't have with a giant worm breathing down their necks.
And in this moment, we see how strong their bond is. While Kaskin focuses on the portal, Vandris, Ulrich, and Kindred protect him. They literally put their lives on the line for each other. It's a beautiful display of teamwork and trust.
But you can't help but notice how Kindred's actions are becoming increasingly ruthless. The line between hero and villain is definitely blurring. It's like the darkness is taking over.
His transformation is fascinating and terrifying at the same time. We're witnessing this good man being corrupted by the forces he's fighting against. And it raises all sorts of questions about the nature of good and evil.
It's a classic struggle, isn't it? Light versus darkness. But there's no time for philosophical debates right now because the worm bursts from the ground beneath this circle, ready to swallow them whole. It's a total cliffhanger. Do they make it out alive?
It's a testament to the writer's ability to create suspense. They keep you guessing, keep you on the edge of your seat.
I was totally hooked, so tell me, do they survive?
Well, Vandris and Kindred manage to jump clear, but Ulrich gets swallowed whole by the worm. I mean, talk about a nightmare scenario.
Poor Ulrich. I thought he was a goner for sure.
It was a terrifying moment. It really highlights the fragility of life in this world, but it also speaks volumes about the other character's loyalty.
How so?
Vandris refuses to leave Ulrich behind. He attacks the worm, carves a hole in its side, and reveals Ulrich struggling inside. It's an incredible act of bravery and friendship.
That's amazing. I knew Vandris cared about Ulrich, but that's next level. Yeah.
With the help of Jim and Jameson, they manage to pull Ulrich free. But the worm is still on a rampage, and Kaskin's portal still isn't ready. The tension is palpable. You can feel the clock ticking.
Talk about a desperate situation. What happens next?
Just when all hope seems lost, Kaskin completes the portal. But there's a catch. He hasn't attuned it to another location. They have no idea where it will take them. But they have to take the chance.
It's a total gamble. But what choice do they have?
Exactly. They're putting their trust in Kaskin, in the unknown, because it's their only option. And as they prepare to enter the portal, the worm turns on Jim and swallows him whole.
Oh, no.
It's a tragic moment. It reminds us of the real cost of this conflict, the sacrifices that are made to protect others, and it highlights the unpredictability of this whole situation. Even those who seem powerful can fall victim to the forces they're facing.
Yeah. It's a sobering reminder that no one is safe in this world. So with the worm closing in, they jump into the portal. Lights flash, motion blurs, and then silence. They're gone. Their fate completely unknown.
Another classic cliffhanger. The writers are masters of suspense.
So last we left, Vandris and his companions, they were fleeing this monstrous worm and jumping into an untuned teleportation portal, kind of leaving the fate of Hollowstone Hills up in the air. You know,
Yeah, they're
Kaskin's portal could have dropped them anywhere, in any time. And we still don't know what happened to Hollowstone Hills or the worm, or even Jim, for that matter.
lots of unanswered questions.
Definitely keeps you on the edge of your seat. What did you think about that whole hypnotic dust thing, by the way?
Oh man, that was creepy. It shows how the cultists were brainwashed with those visions of a perfect world. Makes you think about how easily people can be manipulated, right?
For sure. Especially with all the chaos and uncertainty in the world right now.
It's like they're being offered this easy solution, a shortcut to happiness.
And they're willing to do terrible things to achieve it.
Right. But it's just an illusion, a dangerous fantasy. And what's really interesting is that Vandris and his companions aren't affected by the dust at all.
Yeah, why is that?
It seems like they've already faced their own demons, their own temptations. They've seen through the lies and come out stronger.
So they're immune to the cult's propaganda because they've been through the fire themselves.
Exactly. They know that real change, real progress, takes hard work and sacrifice. It's not something you can just get from a magic potion or a hypnotic vision.
That makes a lot of sense. But even with their immunity, they're still facing some pretty serious internal struggles, especially Kindred. That darkness that's been growing inside him, it's like it's taken root.
It's a classic battle between light and dark playing out right there in his soul. And it raises the question, can he overcome it? Or will he succumb to the shadows?
It's a question we'll have to wait to answer. But this session has been a wild ride, full of twists and turns and some pretty heavy themes.
For sure. We've seen betrayal, sacrifice, the allure of power, the struggle for survival.
And it's all tied together with this incredible world building and these complex, relatable characters. Even the villains, they're not just mustache-twirling bad guys.
Right. They have their own motivations, their own beliefs. They think they're doing the right thing, even if their methods are twisted.
It makes the conflict so much more interesting. And it leaves you thinking about the bigger picture, about the forces that shape our world and the choices we make when faced with impossible odds.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this deep dive so rewarding. It's not just about the entertainment value. It's about exploring the human condition, the struggles we all face, and the hope that even in the darkest of times, we can find a way to overcome.
Beautifully said. I'm still processing everything we've discussed, and I know I'll be thinking about this session for a long time to come.
Me too. It's a story that stays with you.
Well, that's all the time we have for today, but I want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Session 6. It's been a pleasure exploring these themes with you.
Thanks for having me.
And to all our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep questioning, and remember that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, there's always a flicker of hope waiting to be rekindled. Until next time.